Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Thought Leaders. I'm your host, Chris Shang, and today we have Anna, who is the co-founder and CEO of Scale Growth AI. She is a sales and marketing guru. She's been doing it for a while now. Also, has been a multi-time founder and investor. So I'm super glad to have you on today. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about Scale Growth AI.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for having me on this episode. Love to share everything I've learned so far with everyone here. So just a little bit about myself. I've been in the tech industry for over the last 15 years. I started as an engineer working for corporates and then move on to product marketing, technical marketing, and navigate ways to open my first agency, help other companies to build out their product marketing. And now my latest venture is Scale Growth AI. So we are a AI company and we're providing AI first no-code solution that helps organizations to quickly launch AI powered applications or tools for their team, for their customers. And what's really exciting to be here today is as part of our Scale Growth offering, we also recently launched a multi-agent AI, specifically in customer engagement and customer success. And our AI agent works 24/7, proactively engage with the customer and preventing problem from happening and really enhance that customer satisfaction. So that's a bit of overview of what we do, who we are. Love to dive into any aspects of this, from building company journey all the way to how do we work with organization, IT teams to really define different solutions for their specific use cases. So happy to dive into that.
Of course, as you mentioned, you did a little bit more corporate and started off in that world. Can you tell us like how you first got involved into marketing and ultimately like sales enablement?
Yeah.
Just like what the origination of that was. I feel
Um,
like a lot of people have unique stories and they somehow a lot of times just, end up into it somehow or fall into it. But what was your journey like? And was it something that you knew that you were going to get into in the very beginning?
I think it's all come out from exploring, like not just exploring different opportunities, also exploring what I really enjoy to do, right? So like I said, I start as an engineer working for Motorola at the time. I don't know if you guys remember Motorola Razr phone back in the days, right?
Yep.
This one of those really cool first flip thin, super thin phone. So I was actually part of the team design the DSP. So I was a hardcore engineer back in the days and designing transistor level DSP, right? Digital signal processor. And while I was doing that, it was very challenging. It was very rewarding. But at the same time, I feel like I was only focused on very narrow aspects of what we call building product, right? So the curiosity really drove me to wanted to understand why we do certain things. Why do we want to design things this way? What are the outcome? What are the impact for the business, for the, you know, consumer experience, for this more overarching economic growth as well, right? So that's how I decided, okay, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to understand more how the world works instead of just how each transistor works. And that's how I made that transition. Always curiosity.
Got it. And how did it either meet, exceed, or fall short of expectations in terms of what you thought that world was going to be like? Because it was somewhat of a shift, I'd imagine.
100%, right? It is very different. I think I mean, one thing that I know for sure, like nothing, it's easy, right? Like transistor level, it's really hard but when it comes to marketing sales, it's also just as hard. So nothing is easy, but really we need to have that drive to be able to dig deep and really understand like what can we do in this specific area, how can we do our job better, how can we be more productive, how can we generate better results, right? So it's at the end of the day, I think the question that we asked ourselves is the same, doesn't matter what we do in what area.
Yeah, absolutely. But was there any like particular skill set that you felt like
Mm.
you noticed to, again, like maybe expectations wise, either match something that you already had or you had to develop conscientiously?
Yeah. I think what really helped, like having that engineering background, it really shaped my logical thinking, right? This strategic logical thinking. So that was extremely helpful, right? Whatever we learn from engineering, I think it can, those logic and also hands-on ability to leverage tools to do things really fast. That was extremely helpful, right? So we're living in the age of we have to do like tool help us to 10x our productivity, right? So, or now maybe 100x our productivity. So having that mindset, like there's always a quicker way or faster or optimized way if we know what to do, if we know the tools to do, or, build out that workflow automation. I think all of that coming from engineering background really helped me to quickly fast track that aspect. And then the thing that I need to catch up is it's more on the, I would say, like building the network, right? Be able to, like, a lot of time marketing sales is really about building relationship, right? And then be able to telling that story, right? So marketing is all about telling story. Sales is also telling story, but at the same time building relationship. And that is extremely important when you are transitioning into a different role. And the best thing to do is just throw yourself out there and then just try and fail and try again.
Absolutely. Um, and then ultimately, obviously, you spent several years in marketing, sales, growth roles, and then kind of graduated to like founder, also doing an investor, becoming a more like an angel investor in a few startups. It looks like as well,
Mhm.
including Process Street, who I know the CEO there. But
Oh,
what?
that's great. Many, yes.
Well, he's on a uh, first season of our podcast series a few years ago, so a
He's a
different
great
podcast.
founder. Yeah.
But would love to kind of get your understanding of like what was that transition like, right? So you kind of you kind of level up and go from more on the engineering side, taking on the sales hat, and now you're entering into the investor and founder roles. Um, I think you started off as a founder and that kind of was like your first foray into it. What was that experience like in terms of like jumping into entrepreneurship? And again, I think like a brand new set of skills, a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
Uh, what were some of the things that you like maybe again expected or didn't expect as part of that journey?
Yeah. So just being physically being in the Silicon Valley for the past, what, 10 years, it kind of like, gosh, I'm here. I have to try this, right? Like, I think everybody who lives here have this mentality. We doesn't matter what the outcome is, we just have to try it at least once. So like the reason just seeing what people are doing and how people are building product company and serving a large amount of customers, it's just a very intriguing process, right? But the reality is it's so much harder than I have ever imagined. Um, I think from like my experience transition from, if I say from engineering to marketing, if I put it 0 to 10 as how hard it is to do that transition, I would say I put at 5, right? But for entrepreneurship, building a company, I would put like 100. It's way above the scale. So there's a lot of new things that you have to learn because you literally have to do everything, right? As a founder, in the early days, you have to do everything. I think and then for a long time, there's no certainty, right? You have no idea what the outcome is. So be able to live in that uncertainty, be able to learn everything all at once, really fast. It's definitely something that we have to embrace and just have to build up.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, a couple of things there that I wanted to kind of talk about. I think like one would just be when you started as a founder, do you have any particular war stories of kind of like going through and like the actual execution of it, going through the work of it, and you're like, this is not what I expected at all. Um, Either again, like difficulty of finding market fit or how you actually deploy a product, anything in specifics that you could speak about, and then start. Well, I'll hold off on the second question, but we'll start there.
I think as a founder, I think finding that, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, right? I think finding that product market fit's probably the hardest. I can't tell you how many times we have pivoted already, right? Since we first thought about, okay, we're gonna build scale growth AI. So the scale growth AI from day one, it's completely different from what we're building now today, right? It's really about having that open-minded mindset and be able to go out there, talk to your customers, when what works, what doesn't, and when it doesn't work, right? I mean, of course, you also have to have something that we believe, right? What do we believe? What is the mission that we're trying to achieve, right? What problem are we solving? So having that overarching North Star at the same time, be able to quickly iterate, be able to quickly pivot is incredibly important, right? And then once you do pivot, you have to repeat that process, finding the product market fit and see if that serves, if it serves 100 people or 1,000, a million people, right? So just continue to learn and refine that process and be able to quickly, even down to feature level, right? Every feature is another product market fit,
Yep.
right? So that's just but the good thing is you will get better and better every time you try.
Yep, absolutely. Um, my other question was around, being in the Bay Area. Obviously, I think that there is a certain level of energy around entrepreneurship there that you don't get anywhere else really in the world.
Mhm.
Like it, for better or worse, I think like everybody is out there trying to build something, and a lot of that conversation is, in terms of the center kind of around like, what are you building? What are you working on? And it kind of like, that's like the social conversation starter, right? And I think it's very like much in that DNA. And I would like to get your understanding of like being around it. You said that it helped motivate you of like, you should give this a try. You wanted to give this a try. Um, but how much of that do you feel like was a positive, and is there any negative to that as well? Like, I guess like I think about it from this perspective, which is the positive could just be obviously getting people to try.
Mhm.
Negative could potentially be that the statistics are still laid out against you, in terms of what the actual success of it could look like. And if you're in an environment where they're only really kind of having a narration around the wins and not so much the losses, the ones that are in the trenches losing, sometimes it's not really about losing, but it's about learning. But like I think that mindset can be somewhat, debilitating, or somewhat unhealthy at times. If you feel like, because it's a very isolating and lonely journey as a founder. So having a community is really important, but if it's not always talked about, like how to deal with it, then it can also make you feel a little bit more even isolated. So I'm curious to what your thoughts are.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Part of what I mean, a lot of what you said, right? So, being a founder, it is a very lonely journey. Not only that, I think choosing to become one, like you have to put yourself in as an investor
Yeah.
mindset, right? Like taking on this route, you have a lot of opportunity cost that you're not taking in from corporate job you're getting. So it all comes down to like, so my co-founder and I, when we dive into this together, we literally had many long talks, right? So he used to be CTO at Indiegogo, at Redbubble, run Yelp's mobile team, top 20 in the world at the time, right? He like his opportunity cost is incredibly large every
Yeah.
year that we're going through this. So this is comes down to like when you think about building startup, think about as this is your investment that you're investing, right? And not only you're investing on opportunity cost, but also the time that you're investing in it. So there are multiple things you have to consider. One is, will it be successful? Like the reality is 90%, more than 90% startup fail, right? So it's incredibly risky. And then, but the thing is, you also think you have to think about if I don't do it, when am I gonna regret when am I in 10 years, in 20 years, right? So it really is a balance of choosing what's really important to you, right? So let it go, set aside all this energy from being the Silicon Valley. I think that's something, I mean, that's in a way, I feel that I'm very lucky here because there are so many, like I'm not doing this alone. There are a lot of other founders also going through the same journey, even though doing it, it is a long journey. Right. So yeah, so it's a philosophical question, and it's a philosophical conversation that each founder has to have with ourselves, with our, if we have family, we have talked to the family. If we have partners, we have talked to the partners. And it is an incredibly important decision.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that kind of goes, it's not as often talked about the opportunity cost, right? Like you're foregoing, you usually as a founder, even if you are paying yourself, right? Like you're usually paying yourself significantly lower than market rates, right?
Right.
And so it's not a financial decision by any means. And you're usually working 2 to 3 times more the amount of hours than you would be in in a corporate job or full-time role. So it does require a very certain level of a personality. It's a risk reward, right? Like even the stats are against you. You are though still in control of, well, somewhat in control of like your destiny, or at least it feels like that, right? So you're trading in that for ownership, for equity, autonomy over what you're doing. That being said, you've now been working with your co-founder on scale growth for almost 3 years, correct?
Yeah, yeah, almost 3 years.
Very cool. So tell us what that was like. How did you end up on the idea? What was the initial idea? How has
Yeah,
it evolved? Because you talked to us saying that you pivoted already a couple of times.
yeah.
Uh, and then how are you making those decisions to pivot, based on what the market is telling you?
Right. I think as founders, number one goal we're trying to achieve is solving problems, right? We have to identify problem that we're solving, and then we know that there will be customer who's buying our solution. So the first foremost thing is to understand what is that problem we're solving and how can we identify that, right? So this is such a funny story. So the initial idea that we came up with is, at the time we're actually in Australia. So my co-founder, he was working in Australia as CTO for Redbubble. So at the time, like I kind of put him into a conference as a speaker.
Mm,
And we both went to the conference together. It's for startups, for tech leaders conference. And he was sharing how to build a scalable engineering team at the time. Right. And then since both of us really help a lot of startups to grow, to scale. So he's coming from the technical side. I'm more on the, product marketing aspects. So at the event, like after his talk, we have like 20, 30 just founders and people who wanted to start building startup came to us asking, hey, are you guys be able to continue to help us to do certain things? At time, like we both have full-time job, right? He was CTO at the time. I was running a marketing agency. I'm like, well, there's a lot of demand. How can we fulfill this demand? And then literally we was like, how about if we get more people, our friends come in, like people who we know that have highly qualified to be able to help startups in different functions or different capacities. What if we build a marketplace to get, highly qualified advisors, mentors, and be able to help startups on the scale? I mean, to be able to scale that. So that night, we literally got onto like Squarespace and spin up a website. And next day, we sent to those people like, hey, would you like to sign up? On the spot, we have like 6, 7 people pay for it, right? So that was our initial concept that, hey, we're gonna build, YC, right? Y Combinator. They have this incredible internal community where they connect. It's called Bookface,
yep.
right? So they connect, So all of their cohorts, founders, they're on Bookface. They were able to help each other, and then also be able to, talk to mentors, talk to investors, potential advisors. So it is a big community, private network for the YC ecosystem. So at the time, we want to build a similar ecosystem, but for everyone around the world who wanted to build startups. So we built an MVP. I took that MVP to when we had an MVP, we took that to at the time to like AWS, their activator in Australia, a few other ones, incubators around in Australia, also in the Silicon Valley. And then when we took our MVP to these incubators, accelerator, or even VC firms, so it's so funny. They all look at our product. They're like, wow, this is really cool. Because our goal is, hey, would you like to bring all your cohorts to the platform so people can, help each other be able to grow together? And then when they look at our initial MVP, they're like, this is really cool, but can I use it just for my own community, my own like internal, my own ecosystem, right? So that conversation kind of repeat like 7 or 8 times. And that's when the green light start to pop. Like there actually a demand for a SaaS platform where we can give the tools and space for organizations where their customers manage their networks, manage their communities. And that's how the second version of Scale Growth as a SaaS platform born. And that become our core, one of our core products. So we basically take the modular approach to be able to quickly launch AI-powered applications for customers, for the network, for the community, and so on.
Got it. So in that you mentioned one big pivot, but were there others too in that process as you started, like before you took it out to accelerators, or was that like kind of an iteration of like the original idea?
Yeah, that was the iteration of the original idea. Instead of building one marketplace serving founders, mentors, advisors, we turned that into a SaaS, into a platform where any organization can spin up their own application, right? So that's a big pivot from being a unilateral product then to a SaaS, a subscription model to serve different organizations. So that's our first pivot. And then since then, so the main concept hasn't been changed. Our goal still, we wanted to empower non-technical decision makers, leaders, entrepreneurs to be able to launch very powerful applications without having to writing a single line code, without having to hire engineer, right? So that's still that's our North Star. Everything we do, it's around that. But in terms of like the type of features, for example, since we're a modular approach, right, we build a lot of pre-built modules from a marketplace to form conversation to customer portal, right? So all of this, we call that building blocks, right? So what building blocks should we build? What building blocks should we double down? And that's a series of iteration of other pivot. Like, is this how many people are using this feature? If not, okay, let's forget about this. Let's build other ones, right? So this is all by listening to the customers, all by like really work closely with them, understand their needs, understand how can we empower them to do their job better, to produce better, output and optimize their businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note, I know we're rounding up on time, but where do you feel like the product is now? Do you feel like you have some semblance of market fit? And where do you imagine, is the next phase of what scale growth is going to be in the next, let's say the next year or 2 years?
Yeah. No, I love this question. So in terms of our product market fit, right? So our typical customers are mid-sized companies who are looking for their own solution to either manage their customers, right? Create this very personalized customer portal to serve their customers. And also, could be their customer community, could be their partner network, right? So all of this, we can literally create a AI powered solution overnight, right? So the first level of core foundation is to give you that application tools. You can manage your people, your team, I mean, your customers, your networks. And then what we're focusing now, and also the next 2 years, is really adding additional AI agents to help you to optimize, to run your business, to optimize your business, and really to help you to 10x your output, 10x the results, right? So the power of AI, in a way, is it replicates our intelligence, right? So if you have 10 people team, be able to produce, say, $1 million per year, our goal is to really help you to start scale that. So same 10 people team, and you are able to produce 2 million in the next 2 years, right? So those are I would say, our next stage that we wanted to really focus on our offerings and be able to give you be able to empower you to do that, and be able to empower your team to do that as well.
Got it. Very cool. Well, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing your insights and just also your journey and what you guys are doing. And it's super insightful.
Thank you so much. It's really fun to just share the journey, and hopefully be able to help other entrepreneurs to make the decision that you wanted to, take that big leap. And then, yeah, if you guys have any questions, want to dive more into details, I'm sure Chris will share the details.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome.